Here we go. Oh my God, Lenny, we're doing a podcast.
I know. Can you believe it?
Oh my God, we are. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to a Life Lived Trans podcast where old trannies talk to you. We talk to you about the way it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, so that you don't have to do what we did and all that stuff. It's like we're your hosts. My name's Marty,
And I'm Lenny.
and that's Lenny. We're so excited that you can come by for weekly doses of wisdom from us who haven't seen it all, we've seen it all. Oh my God, hopefully you can cut that. Right now you're listening to a free preview. To get the full episode, be sure to check out our Patreon. Links will be in the description. And also, if you join the Patreon, you get the video version. We're going to do a video version because we're actually taping this. So you can see that we're wearing matching V-necks today.
That was completely uncoordinated, but I was happy to see yours is a little lower cut than mine.
A little lower cut.
But I don't have as much to show off. So
yeah, just trying to show off, trying to keep it like we're doing this on a Sunday. So I'm trying to be demure. You know?
Yes, yeah. Very demure.
So this is our first official podcast episode. I think we're gonna maybe put out a couple beforehand that we taped about us just telling about who each of us are and where we come from on the whole transgender timeline, transsexual timeline, since transsexuals began on this earth, which is a long fucking time.
We've been here forever, and what's good to know about this podcast, as you will learn, is that Marty and I transitioned in the 70s, a long time 70s. ago, way in the dark ages.
Oh my God.
And certainly there were trans people before that, but we reverently call ourselves trans elders. Some people call us that.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be that. It's like there should be a whole plethora of like 80-year-olds that we can be, but we're so freaking rare because as we know, the fight was harder. It's like it just, as you go through history, it was just harder and harder the farther you go back. We've had a Renaissance. Renaissances just like like in Berlin in the 30s, 100 years ago. And guess what? Look what your country's doing again. They want to do like the Berlin 1930s 2.0 bullshit. It's crazy.
Right. Crazy. And I mean,
starting with us.
Yes.
The book burning and the whole freaking like starting with us.
Because we're a vulnerable and small percentage of the population that people don't understand. And hopefully through this podcast, whether you want to know more or you need to learn more, hopefully we can bring some truth by telling our life stories about what it's like to have been trans now for me almost 50 years, for both of us. Yeah. And it was a struggle. I certainly didn't choose to be trans.
Yeah.
My dad was a preacher, and I prayed every day in the shower, either please make me a boy when I wake up, or please make me not want to be a boy, because I was terrified and I didn't know what was happening when I was 10, 11 years old. I knew probably before that.
And we want to tell these stories because, I started on social media, showing my face, being stealth, like out of stealth, like 2017. So it's, it's only like, so 8 years ago, I started. I was so terrified, but I saw so much misinformation that was coming out there because, Laverne Cox's Tipping Point, she helped the Tipping Point happen. She was on the cover of Time with that underneath her saying the transgender tipping point. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then I knew that there was going to be a quick backlash to it. Like everybody's like going, oh my God, it's because of the internet. It's like that you're seeing all these, or now then the pandemic happened. Oh, it's because of the pandemic and all these kids are locked down and they're seeing all of these crazy trannies, like, doing stuff and like and the non-binaries and all this stuff. They said, they were just saying like had never happened before. And that's when I was like, hold my Diet Pepsi. and I turned on the lights and got a TikTok account, and I said, this is bullshit. You know what I mean? Especially I blew up on TikTok is when it happened, and in 2021 really, and because and so many of you. That's why I really hope that this gets out there, because there's so many parents, so many people, lay people that come into my DMs and say, thank you so much for, coming out of stealth, making yourself uncomfortable, because, I've learned so much, just, in general about trans people, or, especially for the parents and the young kids that thank me so much too, that say, oh my God, I can live a life. I get that over and over again. I'm sure you do too, about how they see us and then they can't believe that they can actually get old too, that they can actually have a life, because, that's
Yeah,
the
I've
common
gotten a
theme.
lot of supportive comments and a lot of thanking comments. And I was stealth for probably many years, but my good
Right.
friends knew, a lot of people knew, but I was also in a band, a performer. And, I was in, I think, Billboard or Out Magazine
I know you
20.
were in New York City doing it. What I was dreaming of in the West Coast in Vancouver, and I was going, oh my God, I wanted to just be in CBGBs and just partying with all of you. Like, I was a West Coast punk, and so meeting you and knowing that you actually played in those bars and stuff with Jane County and those legends
Yeah, a lot
those
of great
transsexual
bands.
legends of rock and roll. Yeah,
Right.
you are one of the legends, honey.
Well, hopefully I will
Yeah,
be. But,
yeah.
so I didn't get on TikTok until like 2022 because I had this nightmare that they were going to start rounding up trans people and putting us on cargo ships off the coast of Guantanamo. Well, that's getting scarily close at this
Holy
point.
shit! You actually, yeah, you thought that. I remember that.
They take the T out of Stonewall. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God, the
No, we're talking about
insanity.
Marsha P. and Sylvia Johnson
Yeah,
starting that. Well, actually, there was a drag king
yeah,
woman who kind of started
yeah.
as well.
I
But
can't remember her
it's
name,
just
but
like,
yeah.
wow, the National Parks Service had to remove that. So anyway, we've come a long way now. We're kind of slipping back and losing ground. And I wrote this song "Where Is Safe," and I thought, oh, everybody, all the kids are on TikTok, so I want people to see what it was like to grow up as a trans kid, as I did in the
Mm-hmm.
70s.
Yeah,
And it was so hard because you had
so
to
hard.
sneak around, you had to do, you know, there weren't puberty blockers at the time, so you had to go through the wrong puberty, which
Yeah,
was kind of excruciating. But
horrific.
I think part of your, takeoff, your popularity was that you tell great stories, you're charming, and you're funny. And you're very vulnerable too. You tell the good with the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's why how I was able to survive too, is to be able to have that humor. I think we all do that in the queer scene, type of thing. That's how or any marginalized scene, right? It's
Right.
like we find the humor in our struggles and stuff, right? Yeah, because
And
it's
I think for so many people, the concept is so difficult because we're such a small percent of the population. You think of how big America is.
yeah,
Very few people have ever met or spoken to a trans person.
yeah,
And they don't know the science behind it. It just blows their mind. They're like, "Oh, you're mutilating children," which couldn't be farther from the truth.
yeah. No, it's insane. It's like I'm from Canada, so like. So I'm like the safe space that we're going to be building the Underground Railroad again, probably. It's like, well, people are flooding, coming over here
Hmm.
with this insanity. We're just watching. It's like we're actually preparing for like trade wars and everything with your
Yes.
country right now, which is insane. Like we're actually contemplating not giving you guys, like not contributing to NATO and blah, blah as
Yeah.
much as that this new defense guy wants because it's basically just a money making thing for for the military complex, of course,
Correct.
the USA, right?
Right.
And we're going now, but it's like the way that Trump is. It's like you're not our ally right now. You're like an adversary, and it's like, and if you think we're gonna like give you more money, like so that you can like protect us, it's like, oh my God, give me a
Yeah.
break.
And
So we got to remember. I'm just saying that because as a Canadian, I'm looking at a lens through that with the whole trans experience, the whole experience, and you have some clown that took office for 4 years. So when you see that T taken out of monument for Stonewall last week. That's the parks board thing
Right.
through the federal government. So
Right.
it's all his clown show. It's all him
It's
doing the
all
stuff
him.
in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's like, or call it the Gulf of frickin' Liza Minnelli, for Christ's sakes. It doesn't
I like
matter,
that
right?
one.
I
Yeah,
know, I
so we're
love that
in
one.
very, very strange times, and I'm
He's
hoping that kids because look, trans adults they were all once kids. Sorry, let me say that again.
Yeah.
We were all trans kids. You don't just all of a sudden wake up one day and say, "Oh, I think I want to change genders." It doesn't work that way. It's something you're born with, and it's
Innately inside you,
inside you. It's
you
your
just are going to
spirit.
go upstream. You're so scared, you don't know why you have to do it, but you have to do it. Like, we all feel those stories, like, and I don't want to get into the true transsexual, like, who thinks this type, because it's all different. Like, I never liked Barbies or anything. Like, anybody, if you looked at me on paper with what I played with as a kid, you would have thought I was a little lesbian, right? Because I wasn't into that shit. But it's just that, we have to realize that we all have those different experiences. But it's like, what we're trying to say is that, and especially me as a Canadian, like, we're, kids have been kids are now allowed in all of our provinces to get this care and stuff. And there's, the stats speak for itself when it comes to, the suicide rate is down, all that stuff is down, everything. And it's like, we know what's going to happen in the States with all this stuff. But I want the kids or people that are listening to know that we have gone through this and even worse before. It's like, could you imagine having these space machines and being able to hear like other transsexuals talking to you about their experiences? Because you remember how alone you felt all the
Oh
time.
yeah, all the
And
time.
I basically lived in the straight scene because I found the trans scene so fucking toxic. It was so, because all there was, because the only way the only community there was on the street, so it was really toxic. So I got into the art scene kind of like you did. And and I just kind of tripped around with really kind of queerish straight people type of thing
Right,
that had
right, and it
queer
was the only
thought.
way we could be accepted, and
Yeah, and
it
it was
was a
easier for
tough time.
transition because
Yes.
then I could go to my doctors and and it would just be like it would just be like um you know uh the way you acted was you just had this anomaly, but it did come down to how good you can pass, unfortunately,
At
right?
the time,
And
yeah.
Tiggy and I had a pact when we were young, when we were kids. We said, okay, when these secondary characteristics kick in, we didn't say it like that because we didn't even know what that meant. As
Mhm.
like, if we grow up and we look like men, that's what Tiggy and I said. If we look like men and we can't handle it, let's not do it. And we made that decision with each other,
Wow.
right? And because you couldn't, life was too hard. It's like you couldn't do it, like, especially for a femme type of thing. Like, it's just, you would just be, that's why most of them were killed right away,
Right,
and they
right.
wouldn't even make the papers. You know what I mean? It was just like some freak in a dress got, was, it was, killed on the side of the road the other day. And it was
And
just
what's
like, oh, really? Oh, well,
interesting is that trans women, for whatever reason, are so much more visible. Um, and there are a lot of trans guys. I mean, it used to be the ratio they thought was a lot higher, that there were a lot more trans women than there were trans men.
yeah.
But which is not true. It's really actually almost equal, I think.
Well, yeah, if not more, because even when we were kids, like all the diesel dykes are the real tough butches. They were basically trans men. You know what I mean? Like, there was just not the wordage back
Hmm.
then. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of them in their inner circles, they probably talk like that. Like, I talk about my great aunt Annie Lena. She built trailers for a living, and she lived with her special friend all the time, right? Type of thing. And she wore her overalls, and they said, "Oh, don't bring Marty over. Marty always freaks out over at Auntie Lena's because Marty doesn't like her." And it's like, and it wasn't that I didn't like her. It was that I was confused because they'd put me on her lap and say, kiss Auntie Lena, and Auntie Lena had a mustache because her testosterone was whack. Like she was
right.
totally like almost she was probably intersex. Who knows? And they would say, "This is your auntie," and it would freak my fucking brain out. I couldn't handle it. I remember, and then she'd come to. She reminded me of like Christy the Crossdresser or something at our Christmas get-togethers at our house because she'd dress in drag and you could see the hair through her nylons, and it's
Oh
like
my
and
goodness.
she was walking like some fucking like trick in high heels, you know what I mean? Like it was just like, and she would just freak me right out. I'd freak right the fuck out because, and I was so young, like it was like just starting to talk memories type of thing, and it was probably because my inner transsexual that hadn't cracked yet, it freaked me the fuck out seeing her because everybody was saying Auntie Lena and I was saying that's not, in my head, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we have such different
And
perspectives
and can I
as
just
kids. Sure, go ahead.
can I just end this as Auntie Lena because I really want to. She killed herself in the asylum in Alberta called Ponoka, and I remember hearing them saying, "Oh yeah, Lena killed herself in Ponoka." And they went, and then my grandpa said, "Yeah, it's like she was getting really crazy. She kept yelling to the nurses and everybody that she was a man."
Wow. Wow, what a story.
Yeah,
So she probably was either intersex or
yeah,
transgender.
yeah.
Um,
And it's just like this is this like late 60s, right? Like
wow.
we're hearing this
Yeah,
stuff.
so I mean, we know that, and we're going to do an episode coming up too on transgender people throughout history, so people that
Yeah.
know that we didn't just appear overnight when TikTok started. Um, we,
Really?
but you were right. What you brought up earlier about early Berlin and Germany in the 30s was Magnus Hirschfeld's clinic for sexual um, research.
Yeah.
And he had collected stories and interviewed people starting in the 20s.
And it's all
And
gone.
it was all gone. The
All burnt.
Yazis burned it down to the ground. And then they firebombed the clinic
Yeah.
in 1933 when he was out of town. So
Yeah.
they lost about 30,000 pieces of ephemera and pictures and research that
And
had
that's what they're
already
trying
been.
to do now. They're deleting
They're
stuff from the
taking it off
medical
the
stuff,
website. Yeah.
off the
They're
websites,
right.
even female scientist stuff. Like they're
Yes.
really just massaging the house down, It's
Ugh.
just so
It's
gross.
it's a long
So
story
people that are
about
listening to this, so I just want the bottom line to know from that story I was saying is like the reason why you see so many today is because it's easier to live than it was when we were kids because unless you were flawless and you could pass, you could not assimilate into the mainstream.
right.
And if you couldn't do that, there wasn't very many crumbs that fell off the table of life that you could survive on.
Yeah, and then you turn to sex work or you turn to substance
Yeah.
abuse because you're having such a difficult time dealing with that, and oftentimes
Well, that's the only way you can live.
it's the only way I was able
You
to
could
get
live.
through the first few
Fuck
years
yeah.
of that.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
because to be rejected by your parents and to lose family and to not know if you can get a job, a
Hmm.
straight job, I should say,
And no,
straight.
you don't know anybody that you can trust.
Right, right.
It's like how many times that somebody would find out and I would start crying to them and and I'd say to them, "Oh, it's like, I know I'm so ashamed. It's like I have this anomaly." And I'd cry and they would go, "Oh, that's okay." And then they'd act all protecting friend type of thing. Like it was really weird. But it's like, but I would play that, play the beautiful little freak that, has this fucking like anomaly between her legs. You know what I mean? I'd
Right.
actually really play. That got me through so much. And
Yeah,
then
and I
people would
mean,
be,
I was lucky because I was in a band and I was, very visible, and
yeah,
I thought nobody knew, but a lot of people knew because I still looked pretty feminine even though I had started taking hormones at 18. And it took a while for the changes for the voice to drop, for the hair to come in, for my jaw to widen. Happened, over like a year. But I was lucky because I was in a band and I was very lucky to date very beautiful girls at the time, women, and they didn't care. Most of them, like 95% of them, were heterosexual, and whatever my equipment was didn't matter to them. So I was lucky, and I did find, I did have, and I want to say this to everybody that's listening, and particularly to parents and to young trans people, just having a couple of affirming adults in your life can make such a difference, because the 2 or 3 that I had saved my freaking life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and the whole queer scene back then was like, it was really dangerous to be in. And it was like, well, first off, if the Harry Benjamin standards of care, if the Harry Benjamin standards of care knew that you were frequenting gay bars, they wouldn't. They would drop all your services.
Yeah, you had to be straight. You had to say, "I promise I'm going to grow up to be straight and heterosexual."
But he was doing that to protect us. Because it's so hard for the lesbian woman anyway. It's like, so like to do it, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's like Trump saying that, he's going to protect Canada. That's why he wants us for it to be the 51st state. We need protection. That's what he said.
And that's such bullshit,
Fuck you.
Because you say you're protecting the children, and I looked up a statistic while you were talking, because people are like, oh, well, wouldn't it become such a big issue if you're not coming after the kids? And I'm saying it again, we are born this way. There will always be transgender kids.
I was born with an anomaly.
Yeah. So they talk about puberty blockers. Well, surgery is very rare, but in a study that was done, only 0.1% of transgender youth access puberty blockers or hormones for gender transition. That's like 0.1%. So you're telling me you're making a big deal about this, and all I want to tell kids is that there is hope, because look at us. We've grown up. We've been successful. We've done fabulous things and lived full, rich lives. I mean, Marty's very spiritual and obviously very beautiful, and traveled and performed back in Canada back in the day. I perform here in New York still, although some people think I should retire because I'm getting a little too old. But,
no, I would stay. I want to be back in the spotlight again too.
Yeah, we need
our renaissance.
Together.
We need our fucking flowers. Oh, so shifting gears now. We're at the 20 minutes now. It's like, yes. I was gonna mention. We didn't talk about stuff that maybe just mention a few things that are going on right now in our lives and stuff. I'm so excited to announce that I have been courted by a literary agency. I had a meeting with them on Thursday. Remember I told you, Lenny?
Yeah, that's great.
And they wanted to sign me right on the spot.
Wow, that's awesome.
Right, yeah. So we're going over the contract stuff, and it's like, and we sent them some of the writing of this first book that I'm working on with my friend. With Chloe, not Chloe. With why did I say Chloe? With Euclid. Euclid is my interpreter, I call her. She's just amazing. We just sit and blab and talk for hours, like once a week. Anyway, so yeah, they're signing us, and this also, it can include anything that transpires into any other media from it. But he thinks that I met with the senior partner of the place and another agent too. And they're really excited because of exactly why we're having this podcast, is because it is something that's so current today, that's happening, that needs to be talked about and needs to get out. Our stories need to get out there.
Absolutely.
So, yay!
Congratulations. That's excellent news.
It's going to be called Straight to Panoka. I mention that asylum too, because that's one of the first things that I heard that there was something wrong with me, is the first time I heard that kid's going straight to Panoka.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
because of the way I held my hands and all that shit.
In terms of my life, I mean, I recently got married, which was very exciting and fun.
Yes.
Second time around. And my band continues to play. I'm playing in New Orleans, opening for this old band called Red Rockers. That had a hit on MTV called China. And I go back and forth between New Orleans and here in New York. And I did a show last night, and I'm doing another one next weekend. So
With your new album?
Oh, my new album, He Him, came out October.
He Him, HYMN.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
I
So
love
that was
that.
very exciting, and I got a lot of great write-ups, a lot of good press, and that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. But I'm looking forward to talking to you every week, and we've got some great episodes, I think, coming up in store for you coming up, because we've talked about some subjects we thought you would be interested in. And then hopefully once you subscribe, you can tell us what kind of stories you would like to hear from
You
us,
want to hear
because
and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, because some of the stories that come out, we were discussing stories that happened when we were younger and stuff. I forgot that I worked in a fucking steam bath. I worked in a
right, like Bette
fucking
Midler did.
like Bette Midler in a steam. I wish it was that glamorous. I wish I was like, singing on a mic and stuff. But no, I was a little twink at 16, scrubbing cum off of fucking mattresses and shit, and
Oh,
stoned out of my mind on acid because that's the only way I could fucking do anything. And oh my god, in the rooms that they'd have these. They had these mattress rooms where you'd walk through them. I don't know if anybody's ever if you ever been to one of those gay baths, but they have like their little boinking rooms, like a
right.
hallways. And so and they leave their doors open if you want to go in. Right. And then, you're laying down. If you're a bottom, you have your ass up or something like that. I think that's how it goes. Anyways. and then, and then there's the main room, which is just this black room. So it's like you're on acid and you're walking around like Helen Keller, and there's like you're touching dicks and heads and fucking like it's just this big orgy of stuff there. So during the day when they turn it on, it's like they had little Marty cleaning everything. It was just
Oh
gross,
no.
so gross. And but there I met this guy that was what should I say? Like he wrote music for like for the Muppet Show at the
Oh,
time.
nice.
Yeah, and so he boinked me. Okay, what am I saying? Like we boinked a couple times, and then in there, and then he was grooming me, and it's like he was like getting me to getting me into all these show tunes and shit because I wasn't really into show tunes that much, right?
Wow.
And so he would bring me up to his place and sit on his piano, and he started getting me to sing like fucking Marlene Dietrich songs, and he goes, "Oh, you got this Marlene Dietrich voice."
Oh,
So I'd be
that's
going,
very sexy.
"Every honeybee fills with jealousy," and it was really funny. It was like he ended up there's this huge transsexual in Calgary that on the west, and she's quite big actress in her own right too. And her name is Dana. Or her name was Dina back then. But anyways, I guess I looked a lot like her before she transitioned. So she was leaving, and they were having this big party at some hotel, and it's like so they had me as the entertainment, and it was a gift for her, and they opened up these fucking curtains, and here I am sitting on this piano with high heels and Daisy Dukes and like a little boy's t-shirt and a baseball cap, and I'm singing these Dietrich tunes and stuff, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh my god, I'll do. I remember I just felt so embarrassed doing it, but I thought I'll do anything to get where she is. Like I need to learn how to do this, right?
Yeah,
And because that was my first was the queer clubs, like most of us. But that only lasted about a year because by the time I was 18, I was headlining, and took over her spot type of thing. And then I was just like, ugh, this gay thing. Like it's just men, like just men telling me what to do. And it's like
right.
and it's just, they're cisgender men, right? Basically running this place. So I ended up going to Victoria and got into a leather girl gang, punk rock bands type of thing.
Cool. The first time
really,
I
really
wandered
felt
into a bathhouse here in New York was when I first got to New York, because I'm sure they had them in New Orleans, but I wasn't aware of them. And I was just curious, and it was exactly how you described, like rooms and rooms and rooms around with the doors partially cracked, and then in the middle,
smelling poppers everywhere.
I was just listening to a Diva Down
Fucking
podcast
poppers.
where they were talking about poppers.
They actually had it that they'd put it in the vents, and they'd once in a while like.
And then in the
out.
middle there was the big black room where everybody was, it was all like so dark, you didn't know what was going on. I was like, okay.
Twister for
and
Twister.
Of course, some guys started groping me. I said, you don't want to go too far because you're going to be in for a big surprise because I ain't got what you're looking for.
Oh my God. Tiggy would sneak in when she came back from from Vancouver, and she had her progesterone titties happening, and so I'd let her in at around 11 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd be sitting on our junk on the in this pool room, and it's like, and I had my little titties. Hers were really bigger, and we'd like freak out all these old gay guys. It was fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such great stories. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
it was
mean,
fun.
it was, and again, probably not the safest environment. I mean, I know a lot of friends that
I was
got
16. She was like 14.
assaulted and or got HIV,
Yeah.
and which we're also taking down from our websites because nobody needs to know that people are still getting sick with HIV. This is hopefully going to end soon because
Yeah.
there's going to be some big protests coming up.
Well, I'm shocked that I didn't get AIDS,
Yeah, same
But
here.
I think I wasn't. There was about a 10-year part where I was not sexually active, because I was so stealth, and because you had to work in Vancouver, you had to work as a cisgender prostitute.
Wow. Yeah,
So you
I was doing.
So I was really, so I wasn't as and I think that's what saved me is that I wasn't that there wasn't so many people that were into like openly into like trans kids back then, and it's like trans people back then, but also people were always scratching their head with me too, because I was always hanging out with a lot of the punk cisgender girls, right?
Yeah, but I
So
mean, I was doing IV drugs, and so it was just by
yeah, that
miracle that
too.
I didn't get it that way. And thank God that,
Exactly.
only it lasted for about a year. But, I was freaked out. I didn't know how to handle my life, and I had very little
Yeah.
support because I couldn't afford therapy at the time. My parents had kind of fled the scene of my life. But I had some earlier experiences that were very positive because I was able to surreptitiously transition in 8th grade and go to school as a boy in 8th grade, just because I had the chutzpah to do it, and
Yeah.
nobody asked any questions. So I think it is possible and hopeful. And right now, there's so many allies that we didn't have back in the day: the ACLU, Trans
Oh,
Lifeline, the Trevor Project, the Trans Underground Railroad to
it's like
Canada.
it's like if Tiggy and I could wake up everybody from the graves of the 1980s and said,
Yes.
"Look how much support," they wouldn't
Oh
believe
my
it.
God, what
They
a
wouldn't
great!
believe it.
They
God,
wouldn't believe it. Yeah.
we'd have to go to the poster place. Well, first we'd have to figure out what we're gonna say, and then we'd have to go to the poster place where they'd set the fucking like they would set the letters in blocks. In
Yeah.
blocks. That's how old I am. Blocks. And then turn the thing and get out our papers. Like, fuck, we might as well be in the fucking like days of the plague, for fuck's. Well, we were in the days of the plague. And it's like, and then we'd slap them on telephone poles and stuff, for for these shows that we're doing. And these shows that we're doing were kind of like the place to meet and to connect and to talk. They've always been our HQ, to pass on information, and all the punk clubs too and stuff, because those were all interwoven with each other for survival, right?
Right. Right. And I was
Yeah.
fortunate enough to meet this one trans guy back in, the early 80s, who was my age, who had his top surgery not too far away from me in Houston, Texas. And he was upbeat and he was handsome and he was built because he worked out like a fiend. And I went to his surgeon and we had a great job done, in 1988. So,
Wow.
it's not something new. This has been,
Yeah.
and they're saying, I can't think of her name right now. The character from the Danish girl, that she was one of the first
Oh,
trans.
EB.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the first transgender surgeries.
Yeah. 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 She was.
But I really do believe this is going to pass, and then we will be able to
It is.
bloom back into our full glory.
It is, and I just hope this really bitch slaps your country in the face to wake up, to get off your fucking phones and the Kardashians and whatever the fuck they're doing, and it's like and get involved in your civic politics and
Right.
just flush flush those fuckers out of there.
And we will, and the backlash is going to come. I promise you, it's going to come, and you know what? It's going to be pretty bad because when Germany or even Cuba, for that matter, went too far in one direction, when the slapback came, it's going to be more liberal and more accepting. So,
Yeah.
so there's still a lot of hope for us, and I'm
Yeah.
joyful, and I try to show gratitude every day for the life that I live, and gratitude for the people that are supporting us, like Chase Strangio and
Hmm.
Peppermint and Alexandra Billings
Yeah.
and Laverne Cox and Mia
Like
Farrow even came out.
take the time that you need to like to just go touch grass, to turn everything off. It's like, you know what I mean? And then when you when you have that energy to pass on, then join in on groups, join in on whatever type of thing. But I know it can be too much sometimes, right?
Yeah, you
Like
have to take a break. I was curled up in a ball for
yeah.
all day after the election, so
Yeah, yeah, I was pretty punched in the gut too. But it's like, but then my old vampire eyes just look at it all, assess the whole thing, and I go, yeah, this is, this happened in the Reagan days too. There was this pullback,
oh yeah. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
everything. But then the wave happened again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling pretty strongly that they're gonna
Hang on
get
there,
the bash
kiddos.
last. Hang in
Hang on
there.
there. Just tune into us. Let us be your refuge.
And please reach
Um,
out to us individually or together if you want to. I'm
yeah.
sure there'll be a contact link on the
Below, and
podcast.
direct message me, leave us questions or comments, let us know if you want us to share it on the podcast. If we're able to, I'll get back in
The
touch with you and maybe
podcast.
ask the
I'll tell you, you
podcast
were saying about recording on social media and getting a lot of support and people saying thank you and whatever. I would assume that you also got a lot of not kind comments, because I
Oh
know I
my
have.
God. Have you seen like my Instagram? I posted
Yes.
a couple little montages for everybody to see, because a lot of my friends don't realize how sick people are out there,
Oh,
right?
they're
Like even
horrible. People can be horrible.
my husband just can't believe it. He's going, "What the fuck? These people are just so dumb," And but yeah, it's like here. I'll just here. These are just a few tidbits that we'll leave with. This is to a 63-year-old life-lived trans woman. You know, probably been alive like longer than their fathers.
Yeah, right.
It's just so sick. Like it's like these pictures of my husband and I, we were in Mexico. There's this like, tell me you're gay without telling me that you're gay, that you're a closet gay. Okay. So you have two rope smugglers gagging on each other. Gay shit I've seen so far. Gayest shit I've seen. Like who thinks like that? An obvious person that's in the closet.
Yes.
Okay.
They
When
obsess
you're a
way too
vampire,
much about what's between our legs.
when you're a vampire like us, it's so easy. Oh, the trans activists are a militant cunt who went rogue on children, hell bent on cutting off their genitalia and imprisoning the parents for speaking out. Hell, if we're going to let that happen again, thank God Trump's back.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
I
these
know.
poor people.
It's just like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. I'll just do a couple more. Well, we know your genetics stopped with you. And then laughing face. Like, it's like I'm so sad. I'm 63 and I'm so sad because it's like I didn't have a fucking cunt dropping myself or something, right? Like, give
Yeah,
me a
no,
break.
I
Do you
had
know how many
some.
children I've suckled the universe, honey. Like, oh my God, you'd never know the excruciating ecstasy of doing that.
Yeah, no, I had someone say your life was not saved through affirmation. It was, you were like pushed into it by the medical community. I'm like, are you freaking kidding? This was like
You were
almost 50
pushed
years
into it.
ago.
So you're a 62-year-old man. Congrats, LOL. Like, it's like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
It's like so
Affirming your mental
stupid.
disorder is crazy. That's
And
another
and
one.
then I call bullshit. These ones that think that I'm not, they go, I'm not convinced you were a man. I think you've always been a biological woman. Your Adam's apple is non-existent, and your muscular frame is not masculine at all. These are biological features that cannot be changed during transition.
Oh
I
my
think you've
God.
always been a woman. So I'm like, so it's either they fucking like, crucify you and they do all the, the top 10 eugenics bullshit, fucking,
Yeah,
zingers,
I just
or
had
or they don't believe you.
I think the people that come in to make those comments are just, I think they have something within them that they're questioning.
Oh God,
If
yeah.
you're going to take time out of your day
Oh,
to
we
come
know
on some
that.
stranger's podcast or Instagram post and say something horrifically mean and evil,
Absolutely,
your
yeah.
question. Just same thing with homophobes. Homophobes have been shown to be turned on more by gay porn than
I
men who
know.
are like, what? Gay people don't bother me. I just happen to like girls. It's the homophobes that are
Yeah.
closeted.
Yeah, they actually did those studies where they put electrodes on their dicks and it's like, and show them stuff. And then it's like these closeted homos that hated homos. They were getting these like boner signals.
Yeah.
And the scientists are, and it's like, no wonder they fucking hate science. But all those fucking like people that are, are all those evil people hate science because it exposes them. Since Come on, dick electrodes.
Dick electrodes. I think it's
Come
called
on, dick electrodes.
a penal sphygmometer, but I'm not sure about that.
Oh my God!
I can't even say it right, but
my goodness.
But yeah, it's sort of
come
like
up
if you
to the
don't
lab and see what's on the slab.
I remember when that movie first came out, my friend said, "Oh, Lenny, it's just like you," and I'm like, "Well, not quite. Maybe the opposite way." But
the leader of the Speed Queens, that I was in a production of Rock Your Horror Show, the Broadway version,
and who did you play?
I was Magenta, the domestic.
Of course.
I was the domestic, and our Frankenfurter was this crazy diesel dyke that was the leader of the Speed Queen leather girl gang wannabe band that I was in Victoria. Her name was Killer Louise Snod, and we'll talk about her another time. But she played a great Frankenfurter, and we would like we did this water balloon fucking dick for her, and I'd have to like, and it'd break sometimes, and I'd be in the bathroom like in the dressing room like filling up fucking balloon dicks for her. Jeez,
oh my gosh,
so much fun. 1980. Oh my God.
We did have a lot of fun. It was scary.
Had fun.
It was dangerous, but we did
scary
have managed to have fun.
And it was the 1980s, and I fucking lived it. I don't remember much of it, but I know I slapped Billy Idol and a whole bunch of other little things that we'll tell you on this podcast if you keep tuning in.
Yeah, I had to interview Billy Idol on the White Wedding tour, and I was,
did you?
Yeah. I'll tell you a little bit about that
later.
Oh
my God, we'll swap stories because
he was not very bright. I'll say that much. And
because one of my daughters went off with him, and she was a bio daughter, but she was like a drag queen bio daughter.
Either that, or he wasn't, or he was high. He's either not very bright or he was very, very high.
Oh, he was always high. He was always high. That's why I slapped him. He was into my dope. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good story.
We'll tell that. Yeah.
Well, we'll do. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Is we'll have to do our David Bowie story, our Iggy Pop
do our little stories. Yeah,
our
my
U2
David Bowie story. Yeah. All
that'll
of them.
be fun.
Marianne Faithfull. She just died. Yeah. Oh, I got a story about her. Loved her. I actually started drinking again because of her. It's like I relapsed because of Marianne Faithfull.
Wow. Okay, that's a story.
Yeah,
but you are a great storyteller, and I'm so happy to be doing this podcast with you because it's going to be so much fun. And again, just fun. For those of you who are in your 20s, 30s, younger, you have your entire life ahead of you, and you can make it to be our age. And I haven't had a perfect life. Parts of it have been really tough, but I've had a good life. And
move. Just really. Be quiet and assess the room. Assess where you are. Be quiet about it, though. It's like, are you in a safe place? Are you in a safe space? And if you're not, if you say no, figure out the next right move the next right move. Start talking to the safe people about it and stuff. Because it's like, for me, I had to move 1,000 miles across the mountains to a safer place called Vancouver Davie Street, because that was the only place it was, their community was on the streets, right? But that isn't the way today. But there is sanctuary cities. There is sanctuary. So, and you have to make those sacrifices to be safe. I had to leave everything I knew. So there is places to do it, but really figure out how to always, my life has always been finding the next safer place for me and then building more onto that.
And also, we can, not give parental advice, but if parents want to reach out to us and ask us, my child has expressed that they're dysphoric or that they want to be the opposite gender, how can we best handle it? Because I know for me, it was very painful to be distanced from my mom for 15 years. We were estranged. And you don't want to do that. You really don't. The kids need you, particularly during this time.
But if you have to go, you have to go.
If you have to go, you have to go. If it's not
and get
safe,
this, I'll end with
go.
this, and I'll end with this.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I'd ever see her again. She was my abuser. She went Billy Graham crazy on me. She was the coolest. Had a modeling agency and everything. I thought for sure that she'd be the one that would be supportive. No. 28 years estrangement. I never thought, and she reached out to me when she was dying. She was she was only 65, just a few years older than me. And she reached out to me, and we had 5 years together. She was sick the whole time. She could hardly even, move around. But we had 5 years of closure. And then I never thought it was the hardest thing I ever did was go back to deal with it. But she had done a lot of therapy and stuff. So, if people are supposed to be in your life, they will, but not in the time that you may think, right?
And during the time I didn't have my own mother there for me, like I said before, there were two, definitely one, Arisha Haas, who was like my mother and took very good care of me and honored my pronouns and even sewed shirts for me to go swimming so I could be comfortable, and
sweet.
And it was the most selfless, loving act that anybody had ever done for me. And I will never, and this was, 50 years ago, I'll never forget that in my life.
Yeah, that's the stuff that carried us for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, my darling. I think I'm having like a heat flash. I just got over the COVIDia and all that shit. So
yes. After your beautiful trip to Puerto Vallarta, which, looked like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to going back there, but I
created a new alter ego down there. So if you're curious, go through my Instagram and you'll find her. It's Big M. She was the all-inclusive party animal, showing off her gazungas. So, yeah.
I definitely won't stay at the hotel you stayed at, but I'd like to go back.
I am going to be calling. I'm writing a letter to their head office first before I put them on blast with a YouTube video.
Yeah, good idea.
Because I want a free trip, and I will get into that maybe next week, and maybe you guys can help me. Maybe we can start, sending hate mail and stuff to them.
Well, I love talking to you, and I look forward to doing this next week, and we will have a new episode, where we talk. I think next week might be about relationships and boyfriends and girlfriends. And
boyfriends and girlfriends or something like that.
And husbands and wives.
But it'll be fun stuff. It'll be fun stuff. So again, go to our links below and leave us some questions, if you will. And we'll get back to some of them. Yeah. Love you, Lenny.
Love you, Marty. Have a great week.
A Life Lived Trans is a Diva Down production, produced by Carmen Laurent and Carly, aka Tranby.
Your hosts are Lenny Zenith and Marty Perrinek. Thank you for supporting our Life Lived Trans testimonies.
For full episodes and bonus content, please visit www.patreon.com/alifelivetrans.